And I am Tony Felker, President and CEO of the Frisco Chamber of Commerce. I am wearing my Frisco colors here, and we are here. We're glad that you joined us as we are doing this Zoom call and call to talk about the grant program that the city of Frisco recently rolled out as of today for Collin County businesses. Joining me on this is Mr. Chris Lee, our Governmental Affairs Manager for the Frisco Chamber. We also have Mr. Ron Patterson, President and CEO of the Frisco Economic Development Corporation. And running in through the door at any minute will be our Mayor, Mr. Jeff Cheney, who will be joining us in just a second. So, Ron, let's start off by just talking a little bit about, it gets a little bit confusing right up front because it is Frisco grants, but it's being run, it's for Collin County and it's being run by a third party. So can you guys kind of give us the big picture on how this came about, what this grant program is all about?
Sure. I won't delve too much into the grant program on the Denton side, but it does bear a little bit of explanation. The counties are the ones who received the federal CARES dollars that were made available to be able to provide this program. So it's federal funds through CARES, and Denton County made a decision to stand up a county-wide program and that they are managing, and that'll be dealt with later. That's all I'll do on that side. So if you have a Denton County business in Frisco, you'll need to go that route, and you need to sign up for the 2 o'clock version of this very same thing, okay? And these guys will be hosting it. So with regard to the Collin County side, Collin County made the decision that they were going to just take those funds and distribute them to the cities, and then each of the cities could stand up a program to be able to take some of that money and divert that over for helping businesses through a business grant program. And that's what the city of Frisco has done. I will tell you that we've been working very closely with the city of Allen and the city of McKinney as well. Our programs are very, very close to the same requirements, same documentation, all of that. Really the only big difference is between Allen and McKinney and Frisco is that those communities have chosen to limit the maximum amount of a grant to $25,000. However, in Frisco, if you're a Frisco-based, Collin County-based business, the maximum grant is up to $50,000. So it's federal dollars flowing from the county, from the state to the county to the city, and now the city is putting this into place. Tony, you asked about then how did we get to the point of launching this program through a third party? We put out a request for qualifications, and we were looking for somebody to help us with this because, frankly, we haven't done this kind of thing before, especially with federal dollars. So through that process, we went out to 6 very large qualified firms. We ended up selecting one that is going to help us administer this program, and it's called the National Development Council, or NDC for short. And what those individuals have done is they've come alongside of us to help us make sure that we've got a program stood up. We've got a portal that people can go to the website. They can get in. And matter of fact, that portal went live as of 1 hour and 6 minutes ago. So at noon, the portal went live. So applications are being accepted as of today. And so National Development Council is the one who will receive all of those applications. They will review them. They will apply their criteria to that in terms of a scoring. Remember, the idea here is to be able to help businesses that have been hurting through this COVID pandemic. And so what they will do is they will use a scoring system that will actually determine which ones rank the highest to the lowest. And then once they do that, they will then start applying actual dollars to that. So that's why it's a maximum of up to $50,000. So what will happen is if a business submits their documentation and it shows that they've had expenses and loss of, let's say, $15,000, and they're qualified. Once qualified and they're ranked and the dollars applied, then that business would be eligible for a $15,000 grant. However, if a business comes in, they're ranked, they're qualified, and they hit that mark and they had $50,000, let's say they had 55. then they would be able to get up to the maximum of that $50,000 grant. So just be aware, we've had some conversation already about, that these were all $50,000 grants. That's not the case. It's an actual calculation to be able to determine what that amount will be. I know I covered a lot of land there in a very short time, but I'll stop and I'll pitch it back to you.
We'll dig into more of the details on that. As you were saying that and using a third party, I got thinking of something that Frisco does a lot all the time, and that is leave the stuff to the people who know how to do it. And it sounds easy to roll out a grant program, but actually the logistics behind it get very, very complicated. So why not bring somebody in that knows how to do that? We want to welcome the mayor who has joined us. And sorry about that, sir. You came on in. We're glad we got you that link. So Ron just covered sort of some of the basics on where the grant money came from, sort of the overall principles. But as the mayor, can you tell us a little bit about why is it important that Frisco is doing this to support the businesses and to help with the recovery efforts?
Yeah, thanks, Tony. Thanks for having me. And I'm sorry we didn't get Chris the memo that it was Wear Red Day. But yeah, I mean, we're just so excited to be able to roll this out to our business community. I mean, that's where the recovery is going to happen, is through our businesses and supporting them, making sure they're able to get through this tough period and get back to thriving as soon as possible. I know council pushed city staff really hard to try to get this money out the door as fast as possible, and give Ron and his team a whole lot of credit. There's a lot of city staff that was working around the clock to shave weeks off the process needed to be able to get this money out the door, because we wanted it in the hands of businesses as quick as possible. So they over-delivered on that expectation that we had of them. And so appreciate the Frisco Chamber working with us as well, so we can notify, everyone that's out there, all the businesses that need support. And in fact, I think there's a lot of businesses that don't know about it even. One of my good friends, Rod, with the New You Barbershop, down there in downtown Frisco, was texting me this morning and hadn't heard about it. So I know he's applying today. So we just need everyone's effort and the entire business community, along with the chamber and city, to kind of push this word out so we can get the money in the hands of the businesses that need it as quick as possible.
Right, absolutely. And that's our goal, is to make certain that no business in Collin County, in this particular case, 2 weeks from now, as we'll get into, or no, 1 week from now, this application process will be open from 1 week. We don't want anybody after noon on June 30th saying, I didn't know about this. We want to make certain everybody is aware of it and can apply. Going back to the numbers, Ron and Mr. Mayor, you alluded it's a little over $3 million. On the surface, you say $3 million, 50,000 apiece, might only be 60 businesses, but you guys are really trying to help as many businesses as possible. That's why part of it may be 50,000, it may be $10,000 that somebody qualifies for. But am I correct? And you really want to try to help as many as possible while also being a meaningful amount, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll let the mayor come in on this too. But the conversation with the council was, we want to make sure that we do as many as we can. But to your point, Tony, you hit the nail on the head, is, if you've got a business though that's sitting at 40,000 in losses, or 45, or even beyond that, you do want to make sure that you can help as much as possible. The reality is that there'll be an average in here, and it won't be $50,000. So it'll be north of that 60, that we'll be able to help. But I can guarantee you what we want to do. The idea here isn't about keeping any of this money back. We want to get all of it out the door, and we want to get it out as quick as possible. As the mayor said, it was get it done now. And you know what? It was an honorable challenge that the council put down, and I really do. I just am very glad and thankful for their support of this program and the push they've made to be able to get it out the door.
Great. And I know we've got some questions coming in that we're going to get to in just a second here, but as a reminder, if you do have questions, submit them through the Q&A function. Chris is working on that, and we will get to that. What was the next question that I had a good question teed up and then I lost it there. I'll just say the city of Frisco has been very pro-business throughout all of that. The mayor and the council in particular, obviously wanting to abide by the state guidelines, but also just wanting to get as much out there in terms of relief and help and allowing business to come back as quickly as possible. So, Mr. Mayor, we want to thank you and thank your council counterparts for doing that, going from there. Chris, have you got any questions before we go into the details? I want to let our viewers go ahead and ask the questions that they want to get in. I think they have questions that we'll be answering, but what do you have out there right now?
We've got a couple of questions, and some of them are fairly specific. I'm just going to reiterate that the application did open an hour ago, and I put the link to the application in the chat function here for all of our attendees. If you did not see the chat feature or anything like that, it's on the city websites. It's on the Frisco Chamber website, so go ahead and check out any of those websites for a link for this application. We'll take you right there and you can fill that out. So that was one question that we've had come up. I just wanted to make sure that got answered.
Yeah, Chris, if I could just interrupt, one of the things to point out to everybody is because we do have a third-party administrator, there is a link to the portal that they will host. Literally, friscotexas.gov. Scroll down to the red boxes. That's the best way to explain it. Look for local grants, that big red box, click that, and you'll scroll down there, and it has both the Collin County program link and the Denton County program link. So look there, and that should get you to the websites directly.
And the same thing goes for the chamber, friscochamber.com, and there's a button right there at the front with grants and links and information on both of them as well. So, Chris?
Awesome. So we've got a few more questions. One that's popped up a time or two is the amount, I apologize, if we receive federal funding from the CARES Act, PPP, auto loans, does that make us ineligible for the city grant program, or is that separate?
That does not disqualify you. Just remember that will count into the numbers of funds that you have available for your business in terms of calculations, but it does not disqualify you. We had a long conversation, talked to several attorneys to make sure that we weren't stepping in the wrong place, but no, it does not disqualify you.
So another question that kind of ties into that idea of calculations of the funding numbers and the formula and everything. I'll read this question directly. Is the amount granted determined by losses already sustained or losses in the future as we try to rebuild from nothing?
So yeah, what I'm going to do is say, please go to the portal and look at the documentation. And what you'll notice there is that it is a pre-COVID number and a post-COVID number for a given quarter is the calculation that'll be done to be able to come up with what these dollar amounts will be. So yes, it is looking at it's a backward, but also a current picture. It is not a go forward picture at this point. So that is how that calculation will work. And you'll see exactly what the documentation is you have to submit. And that documentation alone will help clarify that.
I want to add in that, Ron, we're going to throw the softball questions to you. We're going to throw the really tough questions to the mayor. Now, I'm kidding about that. I want to stress that the company that's administering it, they have an email address and a phone number that'll be manned and be able to answer all the very technical and detailed questions that are out there. So if for some reason we hit you with a question and we can't answer, there are people that'll be out there to handle all our businesses that may have questions. They'll be able to contact them directly.
Speaking of that, do you mind if I share a screen real quick?
Go right ahead, sir.
And that way it'll get recorded and it'll be there if somebody wants to go back and look. So let me just put it up there for just one moment. I'm going to put this screen up. This is a very quick snapshot of the information related to the program. And what you'll notice here in this is the third-party administrator is listed at the very top. That website is a direct link to the portal, but please remember, you can either go to the chamber website or the city website, and that link is already there and it's hot and available for you to use. But I wanted to just have that there in case you decide you want to bookmark that or something and put it in. But also to Tony's point, we do have a hotline set up, which is a toll-free number, as well as an email that you can send and ask a lot of questions to the team there who will be at the Development Council, be able to help you out. I do have one thing that I would like to recommend, that when you send an email, please make sure that you put in there that you are a business in Frisco. The Development Council is handling a number of different places. Thankfully, we've got different emails, but for different locations. But just to make double extra sure, put that in your subject line, and that way it'll just help as they go through that. So anyway, I just wanted to share that. You should be able to capture that now. And again, it's open Wednesday, June 24th, today, through noon on Tuesday, June 30th. And I will stop sharing so that will be on there on the recorded version.
Ron, let me ask you a question. Like I said, you mentioned this is similar in many ways to the Denton County Grant Program Phase 1 that was already rolled out, Phase 2 that started again this past Monday. In going through that experience, one of the things that we learned is the biggest mistake that came about was submitting the wrong documents or something like that. So I would just want to stress to everybody, if they have any questions about which document is being called for here, or how much of those documents, what time period, to please reach out and talk to the folks there to make certain that you get the right information. Because if you submit everything and you think you got it right, but all the information isn't there, might very well make you ineligible for a grant, correct?
That is correct. And if I may take advantage of the share one more time, I want to.
We didn't rehearse this, did we? This is just good stuff.
Oh, let me see here. Okay, let me find. Well, okay.
We can come back to that as well.
Yeah, we'll come back to that. I thought I had another link here. Oh, here we go.
Well, looking that up, I'm going to mention one question that came in that pertains to this. Will applicants be notified if they're missing information along the process for applying for the grants?
The answer is yes, but it is very important that you remember that these documents that you find on this website here that is in the NDC online, at the very bottom, and I'm sorry it's not pulling up for me, cooperated earlier and not now, but when you go to the website and you log in and you go to the application, before you go to the application, scroll down to the bottom and there's a list of documentation that is required. Make sure you have it all. Just remember, because what they're having to do is they're going to get inundated with applications. So, make sure you go through, create yourself a little list, just check off each one of those as you go through it. I know I'm being very simplistic, but just do that, because I promise you it's going to help. Because what they'll do is they'll go through those and those will get scored and pushed into the hopper, So yes, they will reach back out, but that's going to take longer. So I would just say be very diligent about getting those documents on the front end would help you.
Good. Chris, I think we got a couple of other questions.
We have quite a few more. I'm sure we could spend the next few hours talking about this. So I don't want to take up too much y'all's time. This one might be a good question for the mayor. I know we weren't going to give him hard questions, but we've got a few questions about nonprofits being excluded and home-based businesses being excluded. Can you elaborate a little bit on that if you don't mind?
Yeah, and most of these I'll end up punting to Ron, because he was really kind of running the team on the details, and as far as figuring out how we should have what eligibility requirements that we'd have. So Ron, you want to share kind of what the team's thoughts were on that?
Sure. And I'm sorry, did you say nonprofits?
Nonprofits and home-based businesses, I believe, as well.
Okay, so let's talk nonprofits first. With regard to that, one of the things that we looked at in analyzing this and talking with the council is that there are other sources of funding for the nonprofits. There are other opportunities. And so what we were trying to do is make sure we were kind of filling the gap. Where is it that things have been missing? PPE really was about payroll. And what we heard from the business community was, yeah, the payroll's big, but I've also got rent, mortgage, lease, insurance costs, a laundry list of other things. So that's why you'll see in this grant, the focus was really on making sure that for-profit business and those that have a storefront in particular, because there are these costs that have not been able to be covered before through PPP or any other. So that's why that focus was to make sure it was for those storefront businesses that are for profit. Again, because the nonprofits through other programs, even at the county level, have other opportunities to be able to go and get some funding. And that's the reason that that was included in there. As a matter of fact, if you look at that, that's true across Allen and McKinney, who we talked about early on, that we really partnered with as we put this together.
And the nonprofits, that's also relative and similar to what Denton County has done as well. So it's all
Yes.
good stuff there. So one of the things I noticed, you mentioned that 1 hour and 22 minutes ago, the application process opened up. In theory, 20 applications have already been submitted, those who are eager beavers. Does that put them ahead of everybody else? I mean, is it too late? If those 20 are going to get fully funded, does that mean that money is gone and somebody submitting it next Tuesday is not going to be eligible for this? Is this based on a first come, first serve?
So one of the things that we talked to the council about was there are lots of different ways to do this that we learned as we were being educated on this. And one of those is a lottery system. There are other communities that are using a lottery, but that basically says everybody throws their hat in, and then, their name in the hat, and whoever draws first, they get it. That's not the way this one is working. The council wanted to make sure that, those that had the largest impacts are the ones that we tried to address first. So what'll happen is as these come in, these are going to be scored and ranked based on that by the third party. What will happen is that the city staff, all we will be doing is we will take a look and say, okay, did all the document, did they do the checklist, A, B, C, D? Okay, it's good. Then we can approve it financially. And then even the TPA will actually be writing the checks. I got it, by the way, that's a correction from when we first originally put our landing page out there. We won't be doing checks. It'll all be electronic fund transfer. It'll get there faster. It's more secure, lots of reasons. But anyway, back to your question. I hope that answered that.
I think so. Basically, whether somebody applies for it today or they apply for it at 11:45 next Wednesday, next Tuesday, I guess it is, they're still going to have equal opportunity. It really is based upon losses incurred, their numbers, and everything going from there, regardless of when they submit. So
the only thing that may impact any of that is that we, depending on how many applications we get, we may have to kind of cut them into some tranches. Hey, here's the first several hundred, and then the second several hundred. So we may have to kind of do some evaluation there, but the intent is exactly what I just described.
Chris?
One of the questions that we've gotten a few times is how long before, if approved, how long will it take for a business to see those funds in their account?
They want the money. Show me the money.
So the intent right now is for grant funding notices to be sent out beginning the week of July 6th. That is very aggressive. So there's a lot of work between here and there. But it should start flowing in that window. So the notices and then the funds flow after that.
Good.
Good stuff.
Anybody else, Chris?
You want me to keep going?
Well, there was one question I know, just to clarify, I believe, if I heard you right, Ron, and Mayor, chime in if you want, the reason that the home-based business weren't being included, just to clarify, you were looking at really businesses that had fixed costs like rent and utilities, things like that, that weren't going to be able to be forgiven. If you're home-based, yes, you're still suffering losses in terms of loss of revenue, but you don't have some of those fixed costs that storefront businesses might have, correct? I think I saw Nod saying yes.
Yeah, sorry, I thought the mayor was going to speak.
I thought the mayor was going to chime in as well.
Yeah, Tony, I'll chime in also. And so initially when we first started discussing these funds, the kind of first pass of it was for it to just be a rent assistance program to help those storefronts with past due rent. And then as we started getting feedback from the business community, with your help and others, a lot of landlords have already made deals with their tenants to help them on the rent. And so really what this program was designed to do is, try to use these funds to do the most good. I mean, I fully expect that, we'll probably have more applications than funds that we have, unfortunately. And that's why these amounts are, can go up to $50,000. And so that's what the scoring system is designed to do. It's not designed to be a first come, first served, as was mentioned, or just kind of the luck of the draw. It's really to get the money out there that's going to give the best economic impact, to the community and kind of help these businesses. And so, that's going to be a challenge for the people going through the applications. But, it'd be a disservice to, try to give every business that applied $1,000 where it may not be meaningful to any business, versus, trying to get the money out to where it really needs to be.
And no matter what gets done, unfortunately, as you indicated, Mr. Mayor, there's more need than there are dollars out there, and it's not going to be possible to take care of everybody. And you've got to establish some form of criteria to be able to manage this process. It's hard to include everybody in such a manner right there. So,
right.
Chris?
So we've had a question pop up a time or two about people with locations in different cities. So if I've got a storefront in the city of Frisco, but I also have one in Plano, Allen, McKinney, and Denton, how does this work? Can I still apply for Frisco? Can I also apply for Plano? Can I apply for Allen? Does that exclude me from any of those opportunities?
Well, first of all, we wish every business was in Frisco. Let's just start with that. No, I mean, in reality, here's the way this works. If you own 3 businesses in Frisco, you can apply for up to 3 businesses in Frisco, okay?
And in Collin County.
And in Collin County, yeah. 3 businesses in Frisco, in Collin County. Thank you for that clarification. If you have 2 that are in Collin and 1 that's in Denton, then you can apply for 2 of those through this program. One of those you could apply through the Denton County program. So no, that doesn't disqualify you there. The second part, if I heard that question, was what if I've got some in McKinney and some in Frisco? McKinney's going to look at McKinney's, Frisco will look at Frisco. So what you'll need to do is make sure that you can show that data for the ownership and the financial data for the Frisco-based business versus the McKinney-based business and submit those. It may all be in one document. You can highlight, or show the differences, where those totals are. But no, it does not disqualify you if you have 1 in Frisco, 1 in McKinney, or 1 in Allen. Even though we've got very similar programs, I mean, and they are very much aligned. And I just really got to thank the other cities for that. But it does not disqualify you because it is a completely separate standalone program.
So yeah, we just got another question, so I'll just follow up on that one. So if it is one tax document that covers, let's say, 2 businesses in 2 different cities, from what I'm hearing, you're saying is just provide some sort of documentation that breaks that one document into 2 different operations to be able to justify the Frisco numbers and the McKinney numbers or something like that.
Yes, and that's one where I'm going to say Ron's getting over his ski a little bit here. Call the phone number that I put up, or send an email because they will be able to help you with that and give you feedback on that.
Well, Ron, you jokingly but yet very seriously said, we hope everybody is in Frisco. We are a regional player, and we want to encourage our Frisco businesses to tell your counterparts, tell people that you know in Allen and McKinney, let them know these grants are available there in any other city in Collin County to look into it. We want to get as much relief to every business out there all over Collin County and Denton County for that matter. So, Chris?
Had to unmute. I had to make sure I did this right. The question about scoring popped up again, and I'll say scoring as in the sense of ranking the applications for need. Can you just briefly again, Ron, go over how we're ranking and how you're scoring businesses based on need?
So they're going to look at a number of factors, everything from, how many employees to, what because again, that'll drive payroll. In addition to that, they're going to be looking at expenses, and that'll become one of the factors, and how much expense there's been. All of that will come into play. So again, what I would say is put all of the documentation together that you've got on there. And then if you've got any specific questions about how to break it out or how you think that might be interpreted, that phone number and that email address.
Yes, that number and email address is really there for the experts who, as we said, this is what they do. They've run grants like this before. These questions might be unique to the mayor and to Ron and some of these, and they're learning as quickly as they can, but the folks running the grant program, this is what they do. They've answered these questions before. Hit them with those tough questions for certain. So, but that's what they're there for. So, Chris? No, the questions keep coming in.
Yeah, another great question about a business that started right at the beginning of all of this. They were only open for 1 week before they had to be closed for 3 months. Since they don't have any really records of businesses that disqualify them, is there any way that they can also apply for this?
There is a date that the business had to have begun, and I'm going to check and just make sure because I want to.
It is March 1st, 2019. So they should have been in business for a while. And that is one difference between Collin County and Denton County. For Collin County, they have to be in business from March 1st, 2019. Denton County, and setting up the rules, then you had to be in business beginning May 1st, 2020. That is a big difference between the two programs. Sorry to cut you off there, Ron.
No, it's great. I just wanted to check and see that that's where we landed.
Trust me, that could create some confusion because in my mind, I got to remember, is it really a year's difference, a year plus? But yes, that is a big difference. And that brings some challenges. Obviously, with Collin County, they're looking for the change from 1 year over another year to show that decrease. For Denton County, it's more of a projected loss in what would have happened, but it's just two different ways that the two different counties are looking at that.
Well, and also the counties, in this discussion, just remember that the shorter that window is, the shorter calculation period you have, which means the grant is smaller. So, I mean, it's basically at the end of the day, it'll be, generating more grant value with a longer term.
Unfortunately, because there was a greater loss and a greater impact.
So back to answer the direct question though, if they were not in business March 1st, 2019, then they would not be eligible.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Another question that we've gotten is, are there plans for a phase 2 at some point down the road? If the funds dry up from this and there's still applications in the hopper, is there the conversation that more funding would come from somewhere potentially and be able to have a phase 2 for this grant process?
Well, I'm going to get again over my skis a little bit here, but I'll let the mayor kind of circle back on this too. Now that we have the program designed and stood up, could we do a phase 2 by simply taking and adding dollars to it? The answer is yes, assuming we get additional CARES dollars. We hope that there will be more to come, frankly, and that other funds would flow from the federal government to be able to do even more of this. We simply don't know right now. Mayor, unless you know something I don't, heard something recently.
You can make
No, I think it'd be similar to PPP, where you evaluate the effectiveness of the program, how many applications are still out there, to see if more funds can be available. From the city's perspective, we'll certainly be advocating on behalf of our business community to try to get additional funds for our businesses.
And I apologize earlier if I made the assumption that everybody, when we were talking about grants, a lot of people may not realize, or I just want to emphasize, when we say these grants, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is a straight grant. This is not a loan. This is not repayable. It is a straight grant. Money will come into their account. They use it for the allocated uses, and there is no repayment needed, correct?
That is absolutely correct. We, through the council's guidance, specifically decided not to do a loan program. This is a grant. Once it's their funds to use on their business.
Chris, I know we've got about 8 or 9 minutes left here. We want to be cognizant of the time and our guest speakers' times. What else do we have out there that I guess hasn't been answered yet?
So one question that's popped up a time or two that I don't think we've gotten specific clarification on is, what does it actually mean as a storefront? Is this any business that has rent or mortgage payments or a leased space, or is this specifically a storefront? Can you maybe clarify that a little bit? Because I think that question's popped up a time or two.
Yes, if they have a physical storefront, whether they own it or they lease it, mortgage, and there's a variety of different ways businesses do that, then those would be the eligible businesses. So, anybody who has a physical presence that is got a business address, they would be eligible.
I think maybe there's people hear storefront and assume maybe that refers to retail, but this is really any kind of physical space, whether it's office, retail, or otherwise.
Ron, I don't want to get you too far out over your skis playing CPA here, but I know there's a follow-up question. It is a grant, but is that a taxable grant or not? How is this income reported?
So that is a question that they're going to need to put back to they probably need to be talking to their CPA. I will tell you that part of the team that helped design this entire program was overseen and actually, I would say, counseled by not only legal counsel, but also by CPAs who came in to help us, with this process. So I would simply say you could either ask that question back to through the grant portal and email process, or you might want to speak directly to your own CPA. I would hate to be providing tax advice, and that's definitely way over my skis.
No, if you're going to take that bait or not. We'll also reach out because I think that is a viable question. I think we'll hear that again, and we'll reach out as well, and we'll try to get an answer on that, and we'll have that added to our website and let everybody else know as well. Chris?
Again, we've got a couple of different questions about multiple locations. If their main office is in Dallas, if they have a shop in Frisco, again, as you said earlier, Ron, make sure that you can apply for this as long as you segment out the expenses or the incurred at that specific location in Frisco, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, I'm going to toss it over to you, Tony, to vamp for a second while I read through some more questions.
Understand. The main thing is we really want to make certain that everybody is aware of this grant program. Again, unfortunately, not everybody will be able to get a grant, but we want to make certain that everybody is at least aware of it. So please help us, help the city, spread the word with anybody who has a business in Frisco, Collin County for these, Denton County as well. Just anybody who's got a business in Frisco, make certain they're aware of this. We would hate for people to miss out on that opportunity. As was noted, $50,000 or $25,000 may not be what you need to make everything go away, but it's definitely going to pay more than just a light bill and going from there. So we want to make certain that everybody is at least aware of that and makes a decision to apply or not to apply. Mr. Mayor, as we kind of wrap things up and Chris is checking for any other, what else would you like to say as let's put a positive end on this? I mean, the city is helping our business community in every way come back. Obviously, we're in difficult times. Numbers are numbers, so there are a lot of numbers out there, but where do you assess where we are right now and the road going forward? This will also be a preview for our State of the City luncheon coming up on July 14th, if you will.
Yeah, I know, like everyone on this call, I mean, we're anxious to get back to the good old days, right? And get back to doing what Frisco does, which is, continue to grow and thrive. And we want to continue to see that in our business community. We all kind of hit a pause button here, and it's gotten our 100% attention here over the last, few months, and looking to see how we can help our business community recover and then thrive as fast as possible. And so, one interesting thing that, I'll share is, this kind of all happened on March 11th, was kind of the big day when the world changed. And that's when the NBA player tested positive. On March 10th, the day before, that's when the article came out that said that Frisco was the most recession-proof city in the United States. And, so I guess we're going to see. But I really do believe that. We have so many great fundamentals here. We're already seeing our sales tax pop right back up to where we expected. So we're still on budget with that. We're going to see our businesses, I think, come out of this stronger than ever. And we're going to continue to support any way we can through CARES funding such as this, through city funding, economic development funding, Obviously, tourism I know is big to many of the businesses here in Frisco. Many of the people listening in on this call, that we bring people from other parts of the Metroplex and out of the state to come to football championships and concerts. And so we're looking forward to getting that ramp back up, and our visitors, 6 million visitors that we have here in Frisco a year, starting to get that ramp back up. So, we're very optimistic, obviously, about the future of Frisco and the business community, and looking to try to get out of this and get Frisco reopened as fast as possible.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I just want to say to thank you and the council. I know you guys are in a very tough position and no-win situation. There are a lot of opinions about this. Everybody has an opinion, and you guys, like I said, have had to make very tough. But on behalf of the business community, and as I'm out there visiting with people, I'm always quick to tell them that our mayor and our council and our city have been doing everything they can to get business back on their feet as quickly as possible and working with them in any way possible. Ron, same thing goes for the city staff. You guys have been amazing working together. Just want to thank you and give you an opportunity to kind of have any final words here as we wrap this up today.
Well, first of all, I guess my two things that I'd like to say. One is to the business community who's on here. Just know that you have a mayor and council who care dearly for you. The challenge that the mayor said, put out there was real, and they did it on your behalf. And so they do care. They care greatly for you, and just know that they will keep pushing forward. The second thing I'd say is this: also know that we are blessed to have a chamber like we've got. They have been incredible partners through this whole thing. I've been working on the recovery planning team now for several months, and Tony and his team and that whole crew have been an integral part of all of that. So thank you to you and Tony. We are, as you said, we're blessed to have such great leadership and such great partnerships. And, there will be brighter days ahead.
Absolutely. And as I tell people, it is that partnership that you hear all the time, but you can't go into a crisis like this and make those partnerships happen then. It's the fact that we've had those partnerships in place long before this that makes us now be able to act upon it. And in that mind, we want to thank the EDC again for being our sponsor for this webinar, and just everybody working together. Chris, as you are the visual part of the rest of the team here on this call, give you a couple of last minute questions or words. No tough questions at this point.
No. I think we've answered most of the questions. I think there are a few hanging, very specific questions, and I want to encourage anybody who still has questions. They can reach out to us at the chamber. They can also call that phone number. I would encourage them more so to reach out to the phone number, the email listed on the application to answer those questions. I think that'll be a great resource to wrap that up for you. And I do want to say thank you again to the mayor and Ron. I've got a few questions as thank yous. So they're questions, but they're thanking you for coming on and sharing this information. So it's been very helpful. I just want to say thank you both again for taking some time out to share all of this valuable information with our business community. I know everybody is very grateful for it, and I hear it constantly over at the chamber. So thank you again. That's all I got on my end. So
as we wrap things up, I just want to encourage a couple of things. One, just please get the word out, spread the word, tell your neighbor. Do not assume that a business in Frisco, whether it be Collin County or Denton County, knows about this grand opportunity. Please have them spread the word and let everybody know. We want people to be so sick of being asked, have you applied for it? Do you know about it? But we want to make certain that nobody gets overlooked. Once again, for Collin County, the application opened today at noon, and it'll close next Tuesday, June 30th at noon as well. So noon to noon today through next Tuesday. Please get that out there. And if you're having any problems out there with the email address or the phone number not getting answered, please let us know at the chamber. We will look into that and find out what the glitch is. We are kind of acting as a conduit as well as the city, but the chamber definitely will be a conduit to put you in touch with those right folks, make certain that your questions are getting answered. But I would say, just like anywhere, take a look at the required documents early. Don't assume that, oh, I can put that application together and have it done in 5 minutes. Be sure and look ahead what's required, make certain